Greetings. Good morning, everyone. This is Tiffany coming through live in effect on Facebook. Part 2 of my thoughts on the ADOS movement, which means American Descendant of Slaves movement. So I'm going to continue where I left off earlier. Alright. So it was very busy and I couldn't finish everything. But before I get started, I want to say Happy Black Love Day. Happy Black Love Day to all the beautiful people out there. You know, this is the time that you will share your moment, embrace your love, all that good stuff. So happy Black Love Day. Shout out to y'all. So today, I want to continue on with this topic from what was done earlier. And I want to finish where I left off. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I do respect and I support the idea of that American Black Americans getting reparation in this country, because we very sure need it. Okay? We need the reparation that we need. We need equity. We need the resources that is necessary for us to survive in this country. So yes, I do support that. Okay? However, here's the thing. Now, in order for us to get reparation, now here's the argument. It would have to take more than just the United States government. You would have to go to the UN to fight for reparation. Because slavery was not just an American thing. It was global. It was international. Okay? So it didn't just happen with the blacks here in North America. Slavery took place in South America and Central America. So that's what we got to understand. So in order for that to really become a full effect, that's going to have to go to the UN versus the president. Especially a president like Trump. So it would have to take a coalition for us to come together and agree on one thing, to fight for reparation. Now, there were some people that made some arguments earlier that I want to address the comments about the Haitian and Jamaican. As I told you, a lot of black folks won't be able to receive reparation then if that's the case, because the black Americans here, they may have grandparents who are Haitian or Jamaican or any other Caribbean descent or Dominican descent. But think about it. Now, at the end of the day, whether you are in Jamaica, whether you are in Haiti, Trinidad, or in America, South America, your lineage, when it comes to genetics, you can trace that all the way back to Central West Africa. That's something that you can't deny. So sitting up here getting upset with people calling themselves African American or Afro whatever is totally ludicrous, because that's where our lineage is at. So we have that right. Just like everybody else have a right to call themselves whatever, we have that right to identify ourselves as Afro-American or Africans Americans. So people make argument that, oh, those are two different continents. Okay? But guess what? Your ancestors came from two different continents. Your ancestor was brought from one continent to another continent. But you know what? Let me get back on this. Let me say this. Someone made an argument that the Haitian and Jamaicans do not identify with us. Okay? Let's just say that is true. That is true. There are those Jamaicans who don't identify. There are those Haitians, Africans that don't identify with black people. But guess what? You want to know the hardcore reality? There are black people in America that don't identify with other black people. Especially the American DOS stand for American Descendant of Slaves, Brooklyn. That's what it stands for, American Descendant of Slaves. And it was started by Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. It's a movement to organize where black people in America can get reparation and get the resources that is necessary for survival. Yeah. But back to what I was saying. People make arguments that Africans don't identify with us. Haitians don't identify with us. Jamaicans don't identify with us. Alright. And I can agree, there are those who don't see eye to eye. There are those who don't identify with us. There are those that's like that. I can agree on that. However, there are black people that won't identify with you. You can be from the same block and neighborhood and that person still won't identify with you. Unless you're a part of their family. You got some black folks that don't identify with you if you come from another side of town. So if you from the west side and that person from the east side, they ain't gonna identify with you. And be like, nah, we don't roll with them. We don't roll with them over there. They from the east side, man. We from the west side. Or I'll give you another one. Let's just say you are a blood and that other person is a Crip. They may not identify with you because you're not a blood. Or that person won't identify you because you're not a Crip. So if we're going to make that argument about how Haitians and Jamaicans don't identify with us, let's make that argument about how black people don't identify with other black people. You got black folks from the suburbs that don't identify with black folks in the hood. Or that black folks in the hood don't identify with the black folks in the suburbs. Because the black person in the suburb think they way better and above the black person in the hood. And that black person in the hood think they don't need somebody from the suburb. You got somebody from the north think they better than those in the south. It don't identify with the south. Let's talk about that. I mean, that's an argument. Right? I mean, if we're going to make an argument, we got to make this argument for real. You got conservatives that don't identify with the liberals, and the liberals don't identify with the conservatives. So, see, the idea of the American Descendant of Slave movement, it sounds good. But at this moment, it's just an idea. Just like they say Pan-Africanism is dead, or many say Pan-Africanism is an idea, the American Descendant of Slave is an idea. It's an idea. Until it can be put into practice and put into application, it's just an idea, because you got to be able to get enough black people to be on the same page. You must be able to have enough black people to be on the same page. And you know, that's going to be extremely challenging. It's going to be extremely challenging, because you got black folks that don't even think they're slaves, or that they don't think they come from a descendant of those who are slaves. You got black folks that will be quick to tell you they Moors. You got black folks that are quick to tell you they Hebrews. You got black folks that will quick to tell you they Asiatics. You got black folks that will be quick to tell you that they are the indigenous Native Americans. You got black folks that will say that to you. So it's going to be extremely hard to get those black people on the same page. And then again, if there was reparation, look like a lot of black folks is not going to get reparation. If that's the case, because if you talking about the descendant of the slaves in America, right? And you talking about how Haitians and Jamaicans and all this, that, and other, well, that's half of the black people. Let's go back to what I mentioned earlier about Louisiana. Louisiana has a high population of Africans who are, or black people that has Haitian in their family. You know, along with other ethnic groups. But when we talk about the black side, it's a high concentration of Haitian. It's fine, Jay. Then you got those in Florida. There's a lot of Haitian people in Florida, or Haitian descent. People who are Dominican background. Bahamian. Would they be excluded? Or let's talk about New York. New York, the black people out there, most of them have Jamaican, Trinidadian, Haitian, Dominican. It's a lot of that. If we go back to history, we got to remember, 6% of Africans were brought here to North America. And from those 6%, they reproduced another second generation of African slaves. And from those generation of African slaves came about the third generation. And the rest of them were sent off to South America and Central America and the Caribbeans. So you have a very, very high concentration of black folks in those areas than you do here in North America. Because according to statistics, we make up about 13%. The number could be a little bit higher than that. But yeah, we make up 13%. And then also, I remember Antonio Moore mentioned about Harry Belafonte and Stokely Carmichael. Okay, Harry Belafonte parents were Jamaican. They were from Jamaica. And he was born in Harlem, New York. Now, again, I told y'all New York has a high concentration of Caribbean people. Okay? So, by Harry Belafonte coming from a descendant of being the first Jamaican born in America in his family, according to Ms. Yvette and Antonio, he would not be qualified for reparation. Now, Harry Belafonte did a lot in the movement. Alright? He was there with Dr. King. He helped funded the civil rights movement. He did a whole lot. Now, let me tell you something. And what else really kills me is that they said that, you know, you don't go through the same experience as us. Now, they may not went through the same experience as far as slavery here in America, as far as their ancestors concerned, but their ancestors dealt with slavery. Their ancestors dealt with slavery in other countries. Okay? Now, someone like Harry Belafonte, when he was born here, They did not look at him and identify him as a Jamaican American. No, they didn't identify him as that. They identified him as a black man. That's just what it was. He was a black man. So it don't matter if his parents came from Jamaica. They still got treated like they were black people here in America. The racism did not change. Same thing with Stokely Carmichael. No, he was not born here. He was born in Trinidad. He came here when he was 11 years old. However, he partake in the black movement. Okay, he helped with the Black Power movement. He helped support the Black Panthers Party. So Stokely Carmichael did a lot for the black people here in America. For anything, he was the ally to black people. Yeah, although he was from Trinidad. But he wanted blacks to have the same rights. He was trying to fight for equality and equity in this country. And when he was here, they didn't look at him as somebody from Trinidad. They looked at him and say, oh, you black. Or for anything, he's a nigga from another country. He's just a nigga from another country. When he got here to America, he got to deal with the American experience. He lived his life as an American. Once he got Americanized, he dealt with his life as an American, as a black man in America. Not as no Trinidadian, but as a black man in America. And he understood and recognized that, hey, we are dealing with the same struggles. Yeah, I might be from another country, but guess what? We're going against the same people. So do we totally erase him out the history? Do we say, let's erase Stokely Carmichael because he came from Trinidad? So we just going to erase him. Now, let's talk about Sidney Poitier. Anybody that knows Sidney Poitier, he was the actor from Raisin in the Sun, which was written by Lorraine Hansberry. Sidney Poitier was born in Florida, but his parents were Haitian. He partaked in the black movement. He stood up for civil rights. He did all that. So what we say about Sidney Poitier, we erase him after black history? I mean, see, the point that I'm making is, I'm all for the idea of black folks getting reparation in America. Okay? That's a great idea. I'm for that. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to that, that's going to have to be dealt with on an international scale. Because what you got to look at the outcome of this. How many black people can't you get to be on the same page? That's going to take a long fight, a long struggle. And with that being the case, the way the attitudes of most black folks here in America, it's not going to look like we're going to try to get reparation. So the only thing we can do is work out with what we can right now. And if you know that the other group who were descendant of slaves dealt with oppression from the same people, the Europeans, whether they came from France, whether they came from Great Britain, whether they came from Spain, there should be a point where we try to form a coalition and say, look, we're going to have to address this to the UN. Because that's something that has to be dealt beyond the United States. Because slavery was not just something that just happened in North America. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a fight. And again, you will have to get black people on the same exact page. Including, when you're talking political, including the conservative and the liberals. Because you got those conservatives that think that their ancestors weren't slaves. They were born with silver spoons in their mouth. And speaking on political stuff, let's talk about this whole thing about Don Lemon and the guest that was on his show. They arguing about Kamala Harris, whether she black or she's African American. Here's the thing. Kamala Harris, as we know, she's biracial. Her mother is Indian, and her father is black. He's Jamaican, but she was born here in America. So she's gonna be identified as a black American or African American, but she's not a descendant of the slaves. She's not a descendant of the slave because her father is from Jamaica and not from America. But at the end of the day, he still come from a descendant of those African slaves, although he's from the Caribbean. Now, people argue that, oh, she don't speak for us, this, that, and the other. She went to a black college. Okay? So, she was born here. So, she got a chance to go to a black college. Let me put it like this. Kamala Harris, whether her parent is from Jamaica or not, she's still going to be considered as a black woman. Alright? No, we don't. Now, as far as her political views, I don't know much about her political views. I was told that she was a prosecutor at one time. And she was responsible for prosecuting a lot of African American males. For, little petty crimes or something they did not do. Now, to me, that whole concept about her, well, should she be black or African American, that's a distraction. Because it's taking away the focus of what her political views are. Because at the end of the day, you can't change that. She's going to still be a black woman, whether her dad from Jamaica or not. Now, will she get reparation? Probably not. She won't get reparation because her dad is not a descendant of the American black slaves. But what about her political views? So many people focus on her being biracial and going to HBCU. But not many people was up in arms and defense about Obama when he ran for president. And the fact that he was biracial, his mom happened to be a white woman and his dad is Kenyan. Not so many black people was going up in defense about this. Everybody was excited about Obama. A lot of black folks was excited. They was like, my president is black, this, that, and the other. It was so many people that was excited and happy about it. But now that you got Kamala Harris running for president, the issue is not so much of her politics, but more so of if she's American black or she's a black American or she's African American, all of that. To me, that's a big distraction. What is this woman's political views? What is her political views? That's what's more important. So, you say that Kamala Harris should not speak for us. Okay? Again, I don't know much about this woman's background. So, you say that she should not speak for black people here in America. Alright? You say Obama, which I agree, Obama didn't do that much of a good job as a president. He should not speak for black people in America. So, how about this? Why don't we get the black people that's running for politics to run for to become a president? For those black people that say, oh, Kamala Harris and the rest of them, they don't speak for us. Well, then why don't you run into politics and get into those offices to become president, so that way you can have a voice for us? And this is my thing pertaining to especially Miss Yvette Carnell. My thing is, if you don't want Kamala Harris representing or being or running for politics, why don't you do it? Why don't you get into the office? Why don't you get on that level? You don't work for Congress Hill. I mean, excuse me, you work for Capitol Hill. You work at Capitol Hill. Why don't you run into office? Why don't you run into politics? That's what I would like to know. That's why I would like to ask Miss Yvette Carnell if I was ever to sit down and have a conversation with her. My question would be to her, if you don't like the fact that Kamala Harris or any other is speaking for black people, then why don't you run in for politics? You done worked at Capitol Hill. Why can't you run for politics? Why don't... See, here's the thing. That's the hardest part. Getting black people into politics. I mean, she taught political stuff, which is cool. But when you say stuff like Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, they don't speak for us black people, well, why don't you do it? Because there's not enough black folks that's in politics. You could barely even get a black person to become mayor or city council. There's not as many engaging in that arena. So here's the thing. If we trying to get reparation, how can't you really get reparation if you can't get enough black people into politics and agree on the similar political views or be on a common ground? How? Again, I support the idea of reparation, but see, this is something that we have to really think. We have to really understand. They supposed to be doing a tour sometime in October. Yvette and Antonio Moore, they supposed to do a tour. But what's the outcome of getting enough black people to be on the same page about reparation and the identity? How many black folks gonna agree with the concept of being called a American Descendant of Slaves? Because that's gonna be a problem right there. Me, I acknowledge the term. I accepted that term because we are a descendant of those African slaves, those who was enslaved here in America. But I'm not finna go around calling myself no descendant of slaves. I'm not finna do it. I'm not finna say I'm American DOS. No. I'm going to use the term that I've been using, Afro-American, African-American. Because that's not going to change. That's just who I am. That's just my lineage background. That's in my DNA. But I do acknowledge the term descendant of slaves. Descendant of slaves. But at this point, until that movement can become into practice and we get enough black people on the same page to be able to fight for reparation, we can only work with what we have right now. We gonna only do what we can. We gonna We're going to have to just deal with the local politics and state politics. We're going to have to deal with our local community, our local community. We're going to have to deal with the city councils in our neighborhood. We're going to have to do whatever we can on the local level until we get to that level to where we can get reparation. And again, that's going to take a fight, and that's going to be something that has to go beyond the United States. Not just the U.S. government, but beyond it. That's something that will have to be taken up with the UN. But as of right now, we can only deal with the local politics, our own community, city councils, do what we can for our neighborhood and our environment, support our businesses that's out here, support our businesses that's out here, support those who trying to engage into local politics, support those who got their own schools and academy, and also the HBCUs, and promote the idea of health, nutrition, and wellness. Discuss those issues dealing with health, nutrition, and wellness. That's all we can do at this point, at this moment. And then also, here's another thing. Why it's going to be extremely hard. Because it's really hard enough to get black men and black women to sit down and talk to each other about their issues and problems. Since today is Black Love Day, the Black Love Day should represent love between black man and black woman. And not just in a relationship, but just as far as community-wise. And it is really hard to have black men and women sit down and talk to one another, discussing their problems, their issues. Why? Because of the ego. Because of being to stay in denial. Because of the impulses, emotionalism. It's hard to have legitimate conversation about the issues that's going on within our community by our people. So, until people can come on the common ground for reparation, you can only work with what you have. That's right, Yanga. Akoma Day. That's right. That's right, Yanga. Happy Love Day. Black Love Day. Until that reparation movement come about, we can only deal with what we got. And we can only deal with the issues that's taking place, that's affecting our community at this moment. That's all we can do. And then reparations is going to be something that we have to get to later on. But that's something that we have to build some type of strong coalition in order to get it. And again, I'm all for that. But you have to build a strong coalition. You got to have a strong coalition behind you. Or otherwise, it's just going to be an ideal. That's all I'm saying. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let me close out with this. Do not allow all of this, the name, label, no matter what you call yourself, or American Descendant of Slaves, African American, Afro American, Black American, you're still going to go against the same people. You're still going to go against the same issue. February is Black History Month. And in this month, we should take advantage of studying more about our history. Okay? Get a clearer understanding of where our ancestors came from and how they got to this point. and what did they do, what type of contribution they made to this society, so we can be able to be inspired enough to carry on the legacy by helping and building one another up. Okay, my bad. I had to turn off my heater because it was a little hot. But I'm sorry, but that's what I was saying. Yeah, we have to take this time out and study more into our history and teach the younger generation so they can be inspired, so they can know. So let's not get so caught up on these terms about the ADOS and all the rest of them, because it's bad enough you still got people that's arguing back and forth about who's a Hebrew, who's a Moor, who's a indigenous, Native American, Indian. You got all that going on. So we don't want this to become a big distraction to us. We don't want that as a big distraction. We understand that, yes, we are a descendant of those African people that were enslaved. Yes. But I just hope that this doesn't get out of control. It doesn't blow out of proportion. So again, let's take advantage of this month of February, especially, to really go back and do a recap on our history while we got this chance to. But you know, Black history is 365 days a week anyhow. But February is that special month because Dr. Carter G. Woodson, he started off with the Negro Week. Then eventually it became Black History. So at least we could honor that ancestor because he was one of the first. Keyword, I said one of the first. One of the first to give us information about Black history, African American history. And if it wasn't for him and many others, we would never know about Black history. We would never have so many great scholars and teachers and educators. He was the one that influenced Dr. John Henry Clark. Dr. John Henry Clark was so influenced by Carter G. Woodson. That was one of his biggest influence. So let's just continue and be proud of our history. And learn our history and embrace it. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, may peace and power and elevation be to all of you. Again, happy Black Love Day. Show your love to your brothers and sisters out there. Let's show love to each other as much as possible, if you can. Because I know there's some folks that we can't get along with and we can't deal with, but you know what? Love them in spirit, anyhow. If you can't embrace them, love them in spirit. So, other words, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for watching this video. And thank you for your commentaries. Until next time, peace. Have a good one. All right.